Something to think about when you're doing research in jiu-jitsu is watching situations unfold and asking yourself, in what way can we solve current problems with things people have done in the past, oftentimes literally on accident, okay? Like sometimes people will do things, right? It'll arise for whatever reason in a given grappling match or fight or whatever, and they weren't trying to solve a problem which you're now trying to solve, right? But what they did actually could be used to solve the problem you're going after right now. I think you'll be shocked at how often these sorts of things arise. So whenever you're like trying to solve a new problem and you're surveying old matches, ask yourself, okay, they may not be trying to solve the problem I'm trying to solve right now, but can this get the job done that I'm looking to get done? And maybe it can't, but once you test it out, maybe you'll find that it can. Just to elaborate a little bit on that last point, you have to keep in mind, guys, that the human body can only be configured in just so many ways around the human body. So therefore, oftentimes, stuff's going to emerge in the past which wasn't particularly maybe useful at the given time. Maybe it happened on accident, right? Maybe there was no deliberate intention behind its use. But now there are certain mechanical or tactical properties of the position or the technique which can be used profitably in solving a modern problem, right? Because how many possible ways can we configure the human body around the human body? The number is quite high, but let's keep in mind it's not infinite. It is still a finite number of possible configurations. So as a result, I think you'll be shocked at how often things that happened accidentally in the past can be used deliberately in the future to solve new problems.
Keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. His whole back to these ropes, it don't matter.
Something that really drives me nuts is when you see like young grapplers insisting on developing their own style. That doesn't even mean anything. You have to keep in mind, guys, that if every generation of grapplers disregarded the information and knowledge gained by the previous generation of grapplers, we would never get anywhere. Like, we would stay in this like stagnant position of like no growth, right? Nothing would ever get better, right? Imagine if that was how scientists operated, right? Imagine if each generation of scientists, the young scientist, was like, well, I could study the textbooks, but I really want to figure out my own biology. You know what I mean? Like, nobody would do that, right? Because knowledge would never progress, right? The growth and development of knowledge is a very complex topic that requires a pretty serious study. And on a very serious philosophical level, you could definitely sort of criticize this idea that knowledge progresses, so to speak, right? But on a very simplistic level, it's fairly inarguable that it does progress. We can nitpick the word choice, okay? Like certain people in epistemology would argue, again, it doesn't progress, right? But again, on a simple level, it seems to, right? And that's close enough for our purposes, okay? So what you ought to do, obviously, in any field, regardless of whether it's jiu-jitsu or whether it's, biology, right? Any field, what you ought to do is survey the work of the previous generations. Make sure you have a very good understanding of the data, the information, the knowledge acquired by previous generations of people operating in the same field. Try to find out, what did they think? It's when you understand what they thought that you're going to be best equipped to continue in the same field, continue down the same road that they were working down. If you don't do that, if you just operate and you say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just figure things out for myself. I'm going to do my own style. I don't care what other people have done before me. You're going to encounter the same problems that they encountered. But you know what? You're not going to have the benefit of all the work they did to solve those problems. If you research what they did, if you understand what they did, what you're going to have behind you is all the benefit of the work that they did already. They already did that work, and guess what? You can benefit off of it, right? In a sense, that's what we ought to be trying to do at every generation. Make sure that our work work makes it so that the next generation has an easier time of solving these problems. And if you don't look to the previous generations, you'll never get the benefit from that, and you will only, you'll be starting from the same point they were rather than ahead of them.